Hi, this is Mark. In this video, I'm going to explain why some individuals in the black pill community will believe that, you have to be a Chad or you have to be well above average to attain woman. And if you are, genetically inferior in a way, it's basically there's no reason to put forth the effort. Now, with the age of the internet and social media, what is happening is the extremes of society are being pushed down, or basically think about the extremes of society, and it's all pointing inward towards the majority of the population, or where the average lies. And what ends up happening is we are predominantly exposed to the extremes at a higher frequency, and thus we may believe or have a tendency to believe it to be more of an average. And that is a false assumption. So I think in general, these individuals don't get out much. Like I recently went to the gym today and I was working out. And honestly, when I go to the gym, I get way more looks from guys than women. I don't even think I noticed any looks from women, whether they conceal it, they're better at concealing it, whether they did or not, I don't know. But yeah, in general, I get way more looks from guys. Guys, like to think that masculine traits or having a lot of muscle helps, but any extreme is never going to be desired. What is desired is essentially traits that are closer to the average. That is going to be more desirable. Anything when you move towards the extreme, like for instance, say you're hyper masculine or hyper feminine, you lose a lot of options. In general, I'd say women prefer balance in terms of features. So they like some feminine and masculine. So think about like lips. Obviously, most of them I would say do not prefer paper thin lips. Like myself, I have very thin lips. It's not like the end all be all, but it's a preference. These are preferences. And I think the reason for that is, it's the kissing. It's harder to kiss when you have very thin lips. So I think for intimacy, that is a somewhat of a factor. But it doesn't it's basically the whole picture is what matters. Like the whole one feature, if it's bad, that doesn't imply that it's going to kick you out, or basically you're going to be ugly just because one feature is off. It doesn't imply that. It's facial harmony what matters in general, and that is what determines your set number of options. And of course, reality will tell us that more physically attractive men will have more options overall. But that doesn't mean that they secure more options. Because when it comes to securing options, you have to make moves. Men have to pursue. Women, you don't, especially the very feminine ones, you cannot expect them to pursue. And even some of them may be intimidated, and thus they'll shy away from you. So I think in general, women being the submissive gender will be much less likely to pursue, and men need to take the initiative to pursue if you want to open up that reality of what is possible. Because if you close yourself off in your mind, then the reality will never be exposed to you. If you actually think it's truth, if you say this is true without encountering that reality, that in itself is almost like a delusion, because you can't believe something to be true when it's uncertain, it's impossible to determine, because experience is always going to be different. At every area, if you go in a different environment, encounter different people, the experience is always changing. So you really never know. And, I think that a black pill community, they overemphasize certain things. And you don't need to be at the top to secure someone, especially for long term. And the reason for this is, women want security. They want someone who they think is going to stick by their side and not, of course, cheat. And, they go with someone who is attainable or who is a better, not necessarily the best option, but they generally will move up. They're not going to settle for the lowest option generally. They're going to go with the better options and then filter from there. And that's how women work. They filter out what they don't do and don't like. It's like you're weeded out of a calculus class, and so forth. It's an interview process. And now, yes, if you look better, the probability of you getting kicked out is lower because the attributes that you possess are grander in value or perceived to be that way. But if you don't if you don't put in efforts, then you're not going to move yourself to that position along the spectrum. And people who are, the incels who may be less than average or so forth, or think of themselves as less than average in physical attraction, they still, of course, have options. It's a deviation. You basically have some range, and you can shift up. You can have better options. The possibilities are there, but you have to prove yourself in order to get to that point. If you have nothing to offer, then of course you're going to be going down. It's just going to go down the hierarchy, and you get what you put forth. And basically in life, nothing's just handed to you. In general, most things are just not handed to you. You have to work for it. You have to actually put forth energy and it's always best to have that optimistic mindset rather than pessimistic, because optimism will improve your genetic capabilities and pessimism will degrade things. Optimism will actually make you appear more attractive. Pessimism will make you appear less attractive in general. Um, and so, and I think with men, because you get better with age, if you can work on, let's say, increasing your testosterone level, that will really help. For myself, I used to suffer low testosterone. When I was 18 years old, I had suffered 2 years of chronic anxiety. 2 years. I felt like a 90-year-old man at the end of the 2 years. My testosterone level was 220 nanograms per deciliter, and the range was 250 to 1,000. My free testosterone at the time I used LabCorp was about 6 nanograms per deciliter on a range of 5 to 21. So it was on the very bottom. I had no sex drive, lack of energy, felt like crap, muscle wasting, emotional, and so forth. I decided not to go the TRT route. I decided to research and try to improve my situation. I looked like crap at that time too, and I had bad skin. I had flaky skin. I had rosacea. I had a lot of inflammation and issues due to the anxiety. So I looked like a mess. And I could have continued down that route, and my options would be minimized. Or because I chose to improve the situation and work out and optimize my diet, take initiative. I believe 7 years later, when I was 25, I tested again at around 930 nanograms per deciliter. So I went all the way from the bottom towards the top of the range. And I believe at one point I tested again at 940. That was my peak with a free T of 17 nanograms per deciliter. So I jumped almost 3 times my free T level from before. And then just recently, because I'm now 31, I tested again, and my free testosterone is at the very top of the range at 154.8 picograms per milliliter, and the range goes to 155. So I have been able to optimize my hormone level, get it to the very top. It's allowed me to build muscle with less work. I created a system that works for me. And, that's helped me cut fat. It's helped me lean out. And, it improves, I know it improved my odds and the possibilities are there, but guess what? I never did anything about it. I never I didn't socialize much. Having more of a serious demeanor. Women didn't just come up to me. Women really rarely ever approached me, ever. I would say in my 31 years of existence, I can only remember a few occasions where they approached. But just imagine that. It's not like like if you have a great jawline and this or that, you're going to be have a woman all over you. No, no. I would say if you're approachable and sociable, you increase the odds of them actually coming up and initiating. Because women, they a lot of times have to have a lot of beer in their system before they even choose to approach, and they could have the anxieties just like men. And actually, the hormone estrogen is correlated with anxiety, and it's why women are prone to anxiety more so than men. And so you can imagine, and them being the submissive gender, then that even amplifies the effects. So the likelihood of them approaching is even slimmer, especially the very feminine ones. Now, given that information, you may not even know where you stand. Like you may, you could even think of yourself as at a lower level than the reality, what it truly is, and you don't know until you actually put forth the effort, take the initiative, and try. And that, I think, the black pill, the main issue is the nihilistic mindset, the pessimistic views, saying it's over when actually, I believe, in my view, these individuals are very, one, complacent, two, they tend to be routine orientated. They like comfort in routine, and maybe a little more tend to be more resistant to change and so forth. So when you like routine, it's you can kind of get in this loop where you don't want to go beyond this scope that you've already created, and you like this comfort zone. And when you get negative, you kind of narrow every like you narrow everything in this small little region of just negativity, and the possibilities could be out there, and you're actually oblivious to it because you're distorted. Your whole view is distorted, and I think in general, the most important thing for people is the experience. Like looks without anything to offer, how does that give you experience? I mean, yes, first impressions matter a lot, but in general, um, people want to be uplifted, and if you can be humorous, if you can be positive, it's much more valuable than just looking pretty all the time. And I think in general, the majority of population, which is the average, around the average, they have no problem because that's where everything generally settles, and the majority will settle around the average. It's not at the upper tier. Yes, they may get more short-term encounters or more one-night stands, sure, but in terms of long-term, it's always going to settle, and average you're going to be fine within. And of course, if you're below average, you can work your way to get more favorable options, but you have to go through that process. You can't give up. You have to maybe do some extra, or move your career even further, or improve yourself even, improve the attributes that you possess, improve it to a higher degree so it can compensate and so forth. And that's how you move beyond someone who maybe has more of the looks. You can jump ahead in that way. And it's always a hierarchy. Yes, there's a looks hierarchy, but there's also the social hierarchy, and they're all connected in some way. So you have to, one influences other in various ways, and so you have to manipulate the variables and optimize them to improve your probability of success. And look at me, I've never dated at 31 years old, and I would say just my introversion or being introverted has certainly lowered my odds. not going out there and not joining events. I could have, joined I like billiards, like a billiards club or even a philosophy club or some group in the area. That exposes you to possibilities that could exist that you otherwise may not encounter if you just live in seclusion or you're a hermit. So, I mean, the point is to try. It's better to move up than down, better to build than tear everything down. It will improve your appearance, um, even if it's short, just like my testosterone. Improving my testosterone, I could have taken a shot and it could have been instantaneous results, but I decided to go persist, be patient with the process, and look what happened. So it could take you, if you're patient enough, the outcome, things will improve. Even if it's slow, you may not see it. Don't expect it to be overnight. It will slowly improve. You'll evolve. You'll get better. And that's the point. The point is to get over that have that mindset. Things have to be so instantaneous because that's how social media is. It's distorting our minds, to want things quicker. And, you know, uh, if you just want things quick all the time, well, you're basically going to become more complacent. So I'm going to stop on that note. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next